Rick could go ahead and yeah, you can do that. I want to thank everybody for being here. This is a core group for the most part. You guys are the ones that show up on, and I wanted to let you know some things that we're doing. Rick's going to be talking about our Matchmaking 2.0 and some recent uh, improvements to what we're going to be doing due to a conflict. And so I think instead of it being a problem, it was an opportunity, and it's becoming, I think, a really cool blessing for us. So that's very exciting. But Rick did, I got to call Rick out. He asked me, he said, how come I can't find that? And I thought, well, Rick, I actually click on that every time. So are you guys seeing my screen? You see my cursor and the
Yeah.
SBDC? Okay. It still does this every once in a while where my light, it doesn't, I got two big monitors, so it doesn't light up like it normally does. So I did something different. And when it does, I don't know which screen you're seeing. Okay. So basically, I'm going to repeat myself for effect and for boredom for those that know this all too well. But apparently not everybody knows this all too well because Rick didn't. So I am properly throwing him under the bus, but it goes to show you that it does happen to the best of us. Basically, but it also pointed out something that I was not aware of as we go through this. We're trying to make this to where all of our tools are in one toolbox. And I'm actually helping, I've taken apart a screened-in porch or a self-standing gazebo, a square gazebo, 14 by 15 foot building, and it is now in parts in our garage, on our front, on our driveway, and then part of it is being resurrected or re-erected out in the back. And so I have learned in a very bad way when you get tired and you put your tools away, that you really should put them all together, because if you don't, you need something and then you can't find it and you go, well, was it here? Was it there? Well, I just used it. And it might be in the garage with the stuff that's going to be part of the rafters and the roofing. It could be, I could have accidentally left it in the driveway and the timbers. Oh no, it's in the lean-to shed in the back on the side and with the gorilla cart. And it's like, and it aggravates me because I'm like, I should know that. I should find that. Well, we're going to get there. We're not quite there yet with our website. And that is not our website folks' fault. It is as we, the content providers, get that to them. And my virtual hat is off to Lori Piper and to Carl for what they've done with the Bright Center. And doing so much to assist us as a tech commercialization team. They've done a great job of putting their information in a great way. So I'm very proud of what you guys have done. We're going to do that. And so my big ask for you is I want you, as those that attend our Lunch and Learn, we're going to assume you're part of our advisory team to help us. I want you to go to the KansasSBDC.net website and then click on tech commercialization and look through this. And when something is confusing to you, I'd like you to email me and say, Alan, this is something I don't understand, or I'm confused, or I would like to have ... or I wish ... Frank Borriego used to, he at one point was my mentor in strategic planning workshops. And I took what he did and I actually altered it some to fit my personality. And one of the things I did was I wish ... on the top of the screen. And he said, you know, Alan, I really don't think you should say it quite like that. You should say, you know, this is our visioneering step, or something else, you know, something much more magnanimous. And then he set in on one. And when we wrote, I wish ... people actually started wishing, and I couldn't write fast enough. So I'm going to say, I wish ... whatever you wish we had in a tool, I wish you would tell us. Just write it down for us, because we need this to be a tool or a part of our toolbox that we all use. Okay. Um, Now, what Rick did was he was confused with our Encountering Innovation schedule. And when we click on Encountering Innovation, we go to our Encountering Innovation website. And what our folks have done is they've gone through and put what is Encountering Innovation, the past events all the way to 2020. Our Innovator Bluffs is where you, as the client, the innovator, your stuff should be here. What we haven't done, that I realized when I was talking to Rick earlier, our 2020 bluffs need to be migrated in with all of our bluffs. We have been spending so much time in building the matchmaking that we've not done one of the major components that we want to do. And that is, we want to get to where our bluff, when you click on one category and you see these, that you're able to, if you are interested in a particular bluff, that you should be able to click on it and get the public, a public document, what we call your poster board. This is some of what we're working on, and with our enhanced Encountering Innovation, that's going to be a focus of ours as we move forward. And like I said, I'm not going to steal Rick's thunder. I'll let him share that. But when you go to the tech commercialization, Encountering Innovation is also setting inside our events. What we're hoping for is that our events are in a chronological order. And as you see, we've got Matchmaking 2.0. We had a date, and then we pulled it and we said to be determined. But you're able to click on that and go to all of the tools as we see them, how to participate, and then the video links and the actual documents that you need to work with us. We will do the same thing with Encountering Innovation. We've got that basically in our tech collision for those innovators that are working with us, that we're working with Catalyst Campus. And I won't go through that there, but we are going to do that with our Encountering Innovation. What was confusing to Rick was when you went to the Encountering Innovation page, you didn't see a date. He went directly to the page, and we do have it here. So when you spot something like Rick did and it's confusing, if you'll tell us, then we can put it on our to-do list and we can get that to our Pittsburgh state team and they can get that reconnected or in a way that it makes more sense. My point there is that when you have something that you know we're working with, you should be able to go very simply, if you don't have it linked, kansassbdc.net, and then you should be able to navigate your way through to it. With that in mind, that should give you our sales pitch for helping us make this better for you. We've got several things we're going to be doing. If you were in last week, I asked, I've gone blank, Lori Moncrief, who spoke last week? No, you're eating. You can't talk. I'm sorry. So the lady that
I can. I'm here. Oh. I just unmuted in between mouthfuls.
So who spoke last week?
Valerie Muck.
Valerie. Okay. I was stuck on Vicky. I think in Vicky Long, I couldn't get past Vicky. Okay. So Valerie, we talked to her, and one of the things we want to see, just so to help prime the pump on the I wish ... where you understand that I really mean this, is one of the things I told her about is that when you go to tech commercialization, what I'd like to do is under the SBIR, STTR grants, I'd like to click on that, and where it says resources, one of the things I'd like to do is have Bill Carey, who's our SBIR, STTR resident expert, and he's also a scientist. We want to have him in here. We also want those that are working, like we saw Apex already. So things like that where you can short click to those in a way that they're part of the toolbox. That's part of what we're talking about here. That's what we're wanting. So if you can see this and you go, I saw someone do so-and-so, I wish you would do that. So I am seriously asking for your input there. So that's part of what we're talking about with this as Rick goes on and starts to uncover our matchmaking. So I'm going to stop sharing because or I'm going to share the other screen, aren't I, Rick? Right?
Yep.
Okay. I'm going to turn it over to Rick. Well, I do want to acknowledge some of our participants. I see that we have we have Shay, who is Shay. I'm right, aren't you? Catalyst Campus.
Yes, sir. I'm with the Catalyst Accelerator.
Yeah. All right. I good. I thought I had my brain in the right place.
Look at you go this Friday morning.
Yeah, exactly. And it's all because of coffee and B12.
I fully approve that message. I operate on the motto, no coffee, no worky.
There you go. But I also want to acknowledge Nicole Evans from North Dakota joining us today, and we're excited about the possibilities with our matchmaking. And then we have Barbara and Jessica from Oklahoma, and then some of our innovators, as well as some of our KDOC. We have Chris Frederick, and then Jack Alston with economic development. So it's exciting to see a group of you. You are the ones that are, I truly believe, are part of the input of what Rick's going to be sharing. So I'm going to beg you or implore you to speak up as he starts revealing this and ask questions for input. We seriously want some of your input. So as he reveals what he's going to talk about, please speak up. Rick, I'm turning it over to you, and I will
yeah, go ahead and throw that up.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And thanks, Alan. So we wanted to make this kind of a collaborative session on what is it that we really want to, what is it that we want the small businesses to have as takeaways after the conference? What are they really interested in? What are things that they don't hear typically from conferences? And I know a lot of the speakers that we have are talking about programs that do this or programs that do that. At the highest level, really, what do the small businesses want to hear that they just don't get a chance to hear normally? And one of those that we wanted to focus on, and we're working with a lot of help from Lori Moncrief, by the way, is to get the chief technologists from both NASA and DoD to be able to be on as a panel or as a speaker or both, to talk about what are the technologies that are absolutely in demand today, and what are the technologies that are going to be up there. And you can go to the second slide if you want, Alan. What are the technologies that we're really looking at in the next 5 to 10 years that they believe are going to be ones that are going to be in high demand? So the small businesses can either, if they're in it, can kind of march and move in that direction. And then a lot of them who are doing some things, but maybe not completely with some of the future technologies, they begin partnering with people. And so I kind of put it in the mindset, and in fact, a little bit as we were discussing it with a group yesterday, is what do the small businesses, what are the takeaways that would help them the most? And there's a couple of different classes of all of that. And it comes down to what are the technologies that are hot today? What are the future technologies? One that comes up routinely, but very seldom, and even at NASA, we never really addressed, was who are the, when they need co-ops, they don't have the kind of money that the large primes have, nor do they have a mandate or a goal for your HBCU MSIs, and they have that, so they have to spend that money. They don't have the money for it. So one of the problems they have is they would love to have a co-op that actually would be able to push them in future technology direction. But what they'll tell me is, we don't have a clue how to do that. If we call a university and say, hey, you know, we're looking for a co-op and everything, they end up with basically the human resources group, and they'll tell them, well, here's a list, and here's a list of people who have signed up, and why don't you just pick one? Whereas what they'll tell us is, we have limited resources. We can go ahead and we can have one, maybe two during a summer. But if we just get somebody who's kind of a, you know, kind of a general student, all we're really doing is teaching them and they go away. We want to have a student who's working in technologies that will help our business. And we don't know how to do that. In fact, we don't even know how to get to the universities so we can make that happen. That's another takeaway that the small businesses would like to have. And so the idea of having them be able to hear from chief technologists who know what those new technologies are and where they have to steer them is really important. Probably the most important one is what will come out of not just the matchmaking, but the fact that they're giving the list of people who are on the matrix of all the companies that have signed up to do matchmaking. They're going to have an opportunity to, you know, we'll send them that list, because one of their main focuses is they want to meet people they can partner with. One of the comments that we got from, well, one small business, he came right out and said, when I want to start doing business with somewhere in the DoD, and it could be that, it could be another NASA center. He said, the way I do it is I go to one of the events at that center and I try to meet companies that I can partner with, because they know the center and they can, at least, if we can find something we can partner with, I have a much better chance of getting something at that center with that company. And so that's why partnering is so important. And on the matchmaking, originally, the plan was to just have large prime contractors choose the small businesses they want to talk to. And I have a little group that I kind of throw questions by, who are all small businesses. And they came back and said, you know, it's difficult to work with the large primes. It's a real hit or miss whether we actually get any business with them, unless we happen to be lucky enough to have something that they really need at that time. But what you might want to think about doing is allowing some of the, say, larger small businesses, and I really don't know how that'll all work, but why don't you have the small businesses choose other small businesses they would like to talk to and make them part of the matchmaking. So you've got small businesses talking to small businesses. And so what we're really doing is we're listening to small businesses tell us where are their pain points and how can we make this better. A suggestion was made yesterday, which will be really part of the Encountering Innovations event. And that was to have some of these, we call them technology rooms, where we choose a technology, we have somebody who can actually talk to it and kind of get the conversations going. But it's really kind of a meeting room where everyone can get together and discuss a certain technology. And that one would definitely be something that the small businesses would be interested in having. So that's kind of what we're trying to do. And really what's happened out of this is the Matchmaking 2.0 and the Encountering Innovations just becomes one event. And it's not two separate events. It's not even two different directions. It's all one direction. So that's what our panel or not panel, but our little group that I got invited to yesterday, and we're going to have weekly meetings on that. That's really what we're trying to put together in the next few weeks as we start to put the agenda together. So enough of me talking. How do you, are there any other things that you feel the small businesses would really, would benefit from? Anybody out there? And I think you can go back to the people so we can see all the folks, and we probably don't need this up anymore. Don't all speak at once.
I think those are great ideas. The only thing that I had jotted down, and when you were asking what were takeaways, at least our people, it has been helpful for best practices for them to hear how other innovators were able to navigate things.
Okay, and what type of things? Part of the process, or trying to connect?
Just the journey. Because for a lot of our innovators, even our ones that are farthest along, it's been a different process for each of them. But they have mentored our other people so well that when we get them together and network them, they learn. The younger or newer to the process they really soak that in, and pass along those best practices, or here's how I did this, or hey, don't waste your time doing this, focus on this. It's just, I've seen it also in other events, and it seemed to be engaging. And I think, at least in Oklahoma, our innovators appreciate that kind of information as well, but everything else you've listed is great.
Okay. So of the things we were kind of talking about, which ones do you think would be, would benefit them, since we're doing this year is going to be virtual?
Can I just add on to what Barbara said?
Mm-hmm.
When I used to do events for Defense Works, and we had a lot of events. And at the time when everybody used to get together, we used to see as much benefit of having the companies selected to demo at big events. We got as much out of them interacting with customers, and this just solidifies what Barbara's saying, as meeting each other. So one of the things, Barbara, this is a little off topic, but I think it's kind of on topic. If we figure out how to counsel businesses, one of the things One of the things I wanted to do, and I hope I accomplished it last week on an Oklahoma training session, is kind of present a smattering of different things that might help small businesses, just to plant the seed that maybe you want to focus on doing this, or maybe you want to focus on doing NSNs, maybe you want to focus on SBIRs, maybe you want to focus on NASA, whatever, but throw out some options. And then I think what would be helpful, and I can't remember if you were on the call yesterday, Barbara, it's kind of I'm in a fog lately, but we talked about doing counseling sessions with groups, like going through the list of small businesses that want help, and then like doing a weekly session with them, doing one-on-one, solving specific problems, but doing it in a group session too, not confidential stuff, but just having a session where they are all kind of in the same place, trying to get to a certain place together. And what came to mind, Barbara, when I was talking to Alan about this yesterday, and again, I can't remember if you were on the call, maybe Jessica was on the call. There's been so many synergies in having Tom Yoakum and Michael Morford, and I brought in Glenn yesterday. I think there's a lot of synergies, as you said, in doing that, because then they start sharing ideas between each other too.
Yes, we've done that in Oklahoma City before COVID, where that was the most central place we could find to have our people come in, and we would just get a conference room at one of the tech centers or junior colleges there. and get them in the room, ask where they were on SIBR or different topics. And that's what we would do a slideshow over. And then we would have a round table where they all really helped each other understand different aspects of the whole process. And at that time, most of those innovators were kind of at the same level. But now we're starting to see our people really expand out to the ones who are still just trying to get started. And then the ones who are really seeming to kind of grow and blow up quickly.
So my guess, my thought, just it's crazy thought that it is maybe Barbara and Jessica and Alan and Rick, we go through what innovators you have had that have expressed interest in working with you lately, and form groups. Like, these guys are at this stage and interested in NSN. These guys have the product developed, now they need a prototype. These folks have the prototype, have the customer, but need a contract. And then just set up like a forum, if you will, where the people who need help in that area all participate. And we come up with solutions. And then it's shared amongst a bigger group. Instead, it's one-on-one counseling, if you will, but impacting more folks at once. What I love helping people. I get pulled in so many directions, and a lot of times it's people who are at the same point, but I got to send the email. You know what I mean? I'm getting in all these disparate emails and I'm answering them, where if it were a group, you know, maybe they could copy everybody, then the counselor could learn and the other businesses can learn. Of course, we don't want to share proprietary information. We got to be careful of that. Maybe we could get Tom Yoakum. Are you still on, Tom?
Yes, I'm on.
Can you answer how that would be good or bad? I just, because you'd be a prime example to ask whether that would work or not.
I mean, I believe it would work a great deal to have it segmented and kind of figure out exactly at what stage people are at, rather than putting everybody in the same category and box, to kind of streamline the process. I think that would be very beneficial.
What downside would you see?
I mean, as long as our conversations are, somehow protected, as far as with an NDA or something, I don't, other than just being distracted from our present goals, whichever that may be. Everybody's present goals are always differ, but as long as it keeps us on task and allows us to safely, share information, I can't see any downsides to that.
One question, I do have one question on that, and really to anyone. We've kind of talked about stages of, development, in being innovators. Is there an advantage to focusing on that, and not including, say, some rooms that have new technologies that are coming out? Or is it, do we want to mix those up? Just kind of your feelings of what people would really want. So in other words, if there's a new way that robotics is being used in satellites or something like that, that's a future, well, it's actually an existing technology now. That might be something, working about, how to get into your phase 3 and actually make it work is something, but that's kind of on the other end of the spectrum. Is there any feeling of what's more important or less important?
I think the technology rooms are a great conversation, because that could allow, that's another place where people that are kind of on the same path that maybe have products that are complementary might more easily come together in a room like that. I think that have synergies, or have maybe my piece enhances your technology.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm not sure. Hey, Tom, I appreciated your comments. I'm not sure that it's realistic to expect an NDA in that type of group situation.
True. Well, that's true. In a group situation, that would probably be unlikely. However, if for us recently, when we've had some recent talks with some new companies and some people of interest, we can give them a brief description of what we're working on, but, just to make us more comfortable, or myself at least, an NDA is typically, a good start to start really breaking down some of the finite details of what we're working on and all the applications. But to your point, that is right. It's probably hard to get everybody in a group setting to do that, if not impossible.
I get where you're coming from, Tom. What I'm thinking is, in the group setting, the onus is on the people in the group to not share anything proprietary. And as a, for instance, we had a call this week, right? And I connected you with somebody and we had kind of a broad conversation. Now you're going to sign an NDA with him, and now you guys are going to offline, right?
That's exactly right.
So if it went to that would be the time to do the NDA. And by the way, I'm not saying we don't continue doing one-on-one calls and emails and conversations. I'm just saying, if there's any benefit to having some group sessions that moves more people forward at once with less time, that's valuable. It was all I was, to what Barbara said and what Rick said and everybody's been saying. I'm just trying to figure out ways to work more efficiently and benefit more people.
So
So something that I might mention is that if you've got people that are coming to you a little bit too early, and they're in Kansas, it would be good to send them to the Bright Center for our ideation program. And I know that Bijou Matthew is offering a very similar program in Texas. So if you're getting the people who really need to understand what the commercial market is for their product and how to put together their go-to-market plan and learn how to pitch, you should be sending them back to our ideation cohorts.
That's great. Maybe we could go through at some point. I'm not saying do that today, but maybe we could go through and share between Oklahoma and even Kansas and maybe even Catalyst. If there's a group of people that are in this TRL, what resources are out there that exist that we can send them to? What's some recommendations? And then if it's the next stage, what's available out there that we might not know about that we can send them to? And then what group belongs in this this group counseling stuff? You know what I mean? Identify the resources that we can send people to easily that already exists. Because I may not know about them all.
So I'm enjoying the conversation. I don't want to cut it short because I'm not sure who all else is thinking about talking. But we have invited Bijou to speak as well. And there's actually a reason with what he's bringing on. What I'd like to do with what Rick's presented and what we're talking about, what I challenged him and those yesterday on the team was, I said, I don't want to see us creating two conferences, and I'm using my hands, that are at the same time, that are just completely segregated from each other, but we just put them together. And I said, if that's the case, we probably have no reason to do that. There should be some synergy. And what we're discovering from our conversation yesterday is there's some really cool stuff that can happen. Rick's talked about it several times, and I've seen it happen in Wichita when I was focusing on aerospace, and we had several companies that were extremely good at sales, and they were much more proactive. They were much more polished at certain things, and they went forward and they were able to get contracts with Textron, with what we call the Big Five, but they couldn't get it all done themselves. And some of the other clients that we had were very good at product development or manufacturing, advanced manufacturing, but they weren't going to go out and proactively sell. What we found was the proactive one went out and made something happen, but they couldn't get it done all by themselves. And they pulled in 4 or 5 other companies that we were working with. So they together became much better. And some that couldn't do certain things, like selling, could work with them. What we're finding is there will be companies that will be coming that aren't considered primes like you would see them, that will be looking for other opportunities. I've said it before. David Shahady told us, Air Force SBIR, told us 2 or 3 years ago that your primes are not the ones who are necessarily looking or willing to go in for innovation. It's the second, third, or fourth tier companies that are doing that. So what we're hoping for by putting Encountering Innovation and Matchmaking 2.0 together is we're going to have Matchmaking 2.0 activity, primes selecting and choosing companies for sessions. At the same time, we want to go back and invite all of our Encountering Innovation clients to consider coming back, because if you come back and you participate, what we hope to see is some of you are not going to manufacture your innovation by choice, or maybe not by choice, but because of the circumstances that you're in at this moment in time. Then who can? Some of our Matchmaking 2.0 companies are prime for selecting or working or being the one to manufacture your innovation, whether it's because they want to buy it and own it, or whether it's you two come together. So if we bring these two together, we can see things happen that we wouldn't see when we keep these both segregated. So hopefully that makes sense to you. The other part, the challenge that Lori Moncrief has said, and what we're enjoying with Lori Piper and Carl, and then we want to start to enjoy better intentionally with our other states, Barbara, Bijou, and Shay with over in Colorado, and Nicole, is what you're doing. We want to share. We want to be able to, whatever you're doing that you can broadcast, advise, it's the way I look at it, then it doesn't cost us any different for someone here from Colorado or from Utah or from Wyoming, North Dakota. They can all show up and we can still give you the same information. So part of what we're hoping for is that what Bijou's about to talk about, that we can benefit from in a way that it doesn't cost him any more to supply that information and that expertise. Whenever he has to do specific advising, then hopefully our advisors like Tom Byler in our state can actually provide that advising specifically to help with what Bijou's sharing. Anyway, I'm going to wrap that up because we asked Bijou to show up and to talk to us as well. So Rick, I'm going to offer that up. If you're the one who's going to introduce him, then introduce him. If not, I'm going to call on him.
Well, at this point, you're on a roll, Alan. You might as well just roll right into it.
It's the B12 and coffee. Bijou.
Yes, sir.
Why don't you go ahead? You've got your slide deck, right? Whatever the
Yes.
slides you're going to show.
Yes,
Why
I
don't you
do.
share it and let everybody know who you are and your position, where they understand what you're doing. Some folks may not know you.
Sure. Can you see my slide deck? I can
Yes.
sometimes. All right.
Perfect.
Yep.
Great. So thank you, Alan. Thank you, Rick. So for the rest of the group who don't know me, I've been with Alan and group, I think from the start of the Encountering Innovation, when I think we first met here in Austin at the SBIR event. Was that 2016 or 2017? I think
it was December of 2016 at the Tech
Right.
Connect. That's correct.
Yeah, so that's how we first met, and this whole thing got going there. So I'm Bijou Matthew, and I'm based here in Texas, and I run the Technology Commercialization Center. So about 4 years ago, it was a program, and it wasn't a center, and I was the founding director of the program, trying to build this particular focus that I thought was required here in Texas. And our particular focus is strictly advanced science and technology companies. So as part of the SBDCs, and I'm at the network level, and most states have only one large network for the state. Texas, being as large as Texas is divided into 4 regions. So that's kind of like 4 states. And they're independent, they're quasi-independent, and yet they're also under one umbrella, and that's the SPDC Texas. So I serve on the Southwest Texas border SPDC, which is on the southwest portion of Texas, which goes all the way from El Paso through Austin to Victoria, which is east of Houston, to the border. But since they don't have another technology commercialization center in the state, I'm unique. My center is unique in that sense because I serve that function for the entire state. So even though I'm housed here at the University of Texas at San Antonio, I serve clients across the state of Texas. And the focus is the same. So I work with the North Texas network, with the Gulf Coast SPDC network, as well as the Northwest Texas SPDC network. At Texas Tech University. So our particular focus is very unique in the sense that we strictly are looking for new innovations based on advanced science and technology. And that comes in quite a few different flavors, because when we quickly try to screen companies and clients that we see and see whether we are talking about a commercial type, consumer type product, which we will assist, but that's not our focus, or we are talking about an advanced science and technology innovation that fits within national US priorities. And the priorities I'm referring to are the ones of the federal agencies. And so we are also the FAST grantee for Texas. So what that means for those who don't know, who might be, is the Federal and State Technology Partnership Office. There's only one in each state, and we are that office for the state of Texas as appointed by the governor of the state. So we use that office to support all SBIR activity in the state. And in the right that you see right here on the picture, that's our focus: science, technology, engineering, life sciences, in terms of the subject matters. In terms of our partners, we work with the private sector, we work with commercial entities, we work with all research universities, we work with the Defense Department, and we also work with individual researchers who have different and new innovations. So this was an event. So we were the host for the SBIR Week in the South. We did it for we hosted it first in 2019. And consequently in 2020. We had 11 federal agencies in participation, and we used the national event to kind of launch our own associated event through the week. So we had an entire week that we had activities throughout the day. So, and we kind of, the way we built that up is we did a lot of outreach first, and then as the clients came in, as businesses contacted us for the week, we kind of positioned them for the one-on-ones with the PMs of all the different federal agencies. We set those things up, and that was the one-on-one meetings. So day one is essentially the federal component of the road tour. So it was all federal agencies presenting, a quick pitch, and so on. And then day two was when we set up the one-on-one meetings with those folks. And the way we did that was we screened companies, and we ensured that they had the right content, and kind of coached them on what they should be going over. Our intention there is they would then feed our pipeline into the SBIR pipeline that would follow on afterwards. Can you hold on a second? Just a second. I'll be right back. Sorry
Hey,
about
Alan,
that.
would you text me your email address, please?
Sure, I'm right back. Had my dog gnawing at the door trying to come in. So So lost my train of thought. Yeah, okay. So where we set that up was we screened them for the one-on-one meetings, and we used day 3 to kind of showcase our resources that we were holding. And so those resources are not just our resources, they are our partners' resources also. So we use that as an opportunity to highlight our partners and and bring their talent to the table and what was available. And the same thing for day 4 was all the resources we had internally, in addition, resources we could leverage with our partners. It was a very successful event. We had close to 300 participants. I mean, so nearly, so it was a phenomenal success from terms of the outreach and the capacity, and it being virtual, it reached, we had a lot of attendees from outside the state also. So in addition to that, we also, so that is kind of like our major event. So we do something similar like that every year, but not necessarily an SBR week, but we will sometimes we'll focus on a certain agency, and we do that. So we do the Department of Defense typically in December of each year, and we have PMs from NAVSEA and NAVAIR down here, and we kind of do the same thing, but just on a much smaller schedule, typically a 2-day event, but the model is essentially the same. So besides that, we also participate in a lot of local events for our clients, because one of the things we discover is, clients come to us and tell us, they want to go after, they heard about the SBR program and they want to pursue that. And we quickly find out that, they're not ready for that. And so, but they do need funds, right? So they do need funds that they would like to go after. So we kind of get them ready by involving them in local events. So some of what you're seeing right there are the local events that we get them involved in. The prize money is small, right? Typically in the $12,000, $20,000, $5,000 level. And those things help build up the companies for a future engagement. And we do this also on the statewide. I didn't post it here, but we support the Texas New Venture Competition. We've had a lot of success with our clients over there, but that's an all-state competition. And something you all touched on earlier, what we try to do is kind of sieve the types of clients and kind of guide them, because we don't want to just say, no, you don't really fit in one place, but we try to tell them, you don't fit right here, but you could fit over here. And then we try to guide them towards that. So on that note, we launched our Ideation Discovery Bootcamp that just closed on June 8th. And the idea here was to essentially build a cadre of clients that we discovered had the right idea, but it's strictly napkin level stage. So what we wanted to do was sort of construct a boot camp over a few weeks. And the idea here is, let's go through so we have a methodology for this, and we go over this. And at the end of the methodology, and after you practice it, so you've got to come with your team. So this is not just you send somebody, your core executive team has to be in this event. And the idea there is that as they go through this boot camp, they come out of the boot camp more prepared to pursue an SBIR if it fits. So this is kind of like pre-SBIR type preparation. And typically, and we do hold SBIR workshops and customer discovery bootcamp. So after you finish ideation discovery, your typical stage would fall under the customer discovery program, which is really geared about trying to figure out who your customers could be for your product. It doesn't have to be all commercial. It could be commercial, it could be military, but we want you to kind of build content around it. And that kind of helps them kind of understand where they are. So it's really a hands-on activity. Participate, think through it, engage. You have homework, and you do it over 8 to 10 weeks, and you begin to come out of it with a much more real understanding. So the key takeaway there is what we're discovering is individual sessions, meeting with advisors for an hour and a half does work for some folks, but you need long sessions where people have homework assignments, so they are preparing themselves and they take it seriously. It also helps us vet out folks that are not really serious about what it takes to move an innovation to market. So we use it as a screening tool also to kind of guard our investment, because we are really investing in the community, and we want to be sure that the right folks in our community are taking advantage of these resources. So while it's open to all, not everybody gets to participate. They have to be screened for it. So what does all that mean? So we've had quite a few client successes, and apologize for my dog barking here. So these are a few of the clients, and some of these clients have kind of worked with us for a couple of years, and you'll recognize some names in there. AlloSense is one. We kind of worked with them over a long period of time to get them to the stage of where they are. And so here's an example of and some of them have taken a couple of years to get them to a stage 1, stage 2, build them up through smaller prizes, got them to the stage where then they qualified for a phase 1, and then after that for a phase 2. So this is kind of like the example of how our program has worked, and the sort of a step ladder process of getting people involved in smaller prizes has really contributed to kind of strengthening their resolve and also their learning of what it takes to be serious in this game. So with that, I'll stop. I'll take any questions. Thank you.
So Bijou, first question I have for you is on your, and if you said it, I may have missed it, but are your clients coming to a physical location, or are they virtual, and can they be from all over Texas?
So it's been virtual since March 2020. But after that, yeah, it's been virtual since then. But in the past, we've had clients come and see us all the way from Houston and Dallas, which is really a long way. They have to take a hotel room to come and see us. So we've had that. But moving forward, I think we'll be probably moving to a virtual type engagement for those types of clients, because it has worked out well for us.
Second question then, on the different programs you showed on your other slide, are each of those, are you partnering with someone else to provide the prize, the solution resolve, or is it just your own funds?
Are you talking about this slide right here?
Yes.
Right. So being an SBDC, we don't give out cash prizes, right? So we don't give out any cash prizes. So these are partners that we partner with. So partners come in a couple of different ways. Partners come in prizes. Partners can also come in sponsorships. A lot of these events cost us quite a lot of funds, right? So we have to find avenues to subsidize it or make it at no cost, and that's typically made possible through sponsorship.
Cool. Are all the attendees required to be from Texas?
Yes, we have made exceptions, and so the rule of thumb is you're based in Texas and or intend to be in Texas.
Okay.
But we don't do outreach outside of Texas.
Any other questions from anyone else?
I thought Rick had a question, but he was unmuted.
Yeah, I have one. When you're sort of doing your down select, what are the things you're looking for if you're going to allow them in? If you think they're mature enough to participate.
So there's the first important part is science and technology, right? So so that is an important criteria, and the reason we focus on that primarily is because people are coming to us because they want to get access to funds, and we don't have a pool outside of that segment that we can really connect them to. So it's not that we won't assist you, we just are not in a position to help you access funds in that space. So that is why we kind of focus on the science and technology part. The second thing is I've hired a team that is all science and technology based people. They're engineers and scientists and researchers. So the unique thing that we are finding and is people come to us. So to go back to Alan's question, people outside of Texas, they come to us sometimes through referrals because we offer assistance on both the technical as well as the business side of the engagement. And that is, from what I hear, pretty rare because we have folks on both sides. I mean, so we are able to do that in a way. And so I critique proposals from the Health Science Center, having a degree in chemical engineering with a focus in biological and material science in addition, right? So that's my team right there with all different scientific spaces. So that puts us in a position where we can kind of do that. So we kind of dissect the research plan, the research plan, and direct the science. And we also connect people to the university. So I have faculty reach out to us to kind of help us that way too. So it's a long answer to your question, but yeah, so those are the criteria we use to down select. Is this a client that we can provide value to long term? And so that is kind of an important criteria.
Thank you.
Sure.
I think Lori's got her hand up.
So Bijou, I really appreciate your sharing the information about what you're doing in Texas. You're further along with your program than we are with what we're going to be doing through the Bright Center. So I'd love to learn everything that we can from you. We're also offering a Wendy Kennedy based ideation cohort for innovators starting in July. And then we have separately in October, we're doing an innovation competition where we're having the prize money attached at the competition, but instead of giving people a check to go and spend on anything, they have to submit a plan for how they're going to use the funds to advance them toward commercialization. And then we're going to be, for the winners, we're going to be paying those bills, whether it's for beta testing, helping get a prototype developed, legal fees associated with intellectual property, working with an SBIR grant writer, those kinds of things. And Alan, if you wouldn't mind if I could just screen share for anybody who's located in Kansas and needs this information. I just want to see where you can get the information about how to apply for our ideation cohort that's starting in July.
Either if you can chat it in where everyone can grab it,
or
okay,
so
I didn't know Bijou.
So Bijou's program is for businesses in Texas. This is one that's for businesses in Kansas. We have the application link, who's eligible, what the timeline is for reviewing applications and accepting people, what the agenda is, and information about the Wendy Kennedy training. So I know we're at one. I appreciate you letting me share that. And as I said, Bijou, I look forward to learning from you.
Oh, sure, thank you. No, we all have a lot to learn from each other. So yeah, so I think we all are better served when we can kind of talk about these things, what works, what doesn't work, and this is very much a practical on the job training kind of thing, because your particular demographics are going to be different, your particular clientele. I can tell a lot of difference between clients out of San Antonio versus Houston versus Dallas versus Austin versus El Paso, right? So there are definite trends and methodologies and resources in those particular regions that clients can take advantage of. So there's a lot of differences there, and I would assume it would be the same, I suppose, in Kansas too. So what I've learned and what I tell people in this a formula that works for us is we really look for win-win engagements. So I enter the engagement saying, what can I do for you? And we try to figure out a way to make it work when we can. Now there are times it won't work, and we just accept that. But yeah, I think the secret to a lot of these things is trying to figure out a win-win scenario to make it work. So
Yeah, I appreciate that perspective.
thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions? We're about out of time.
I had one comment and a question. So the comment that I had was pertaining to what you were talking about, Rick, which was I just wanted to reiterate to you guys the value of the one-on-one business advisors, kind of on demand. Like when you need a tech advisor, like a science advisor or a business or an accounting type of person on demand, or not on demand, but that you guys have those type of people in your network, in your back pocket. And us small people who don't necessarily have that background, can find a lot of value in that. And then the other question that I had was back to the very, very beginning of the presentation, Alan. Whenever you were going through the website, you were mentioning that you're going to upload like all the bluff and text statements of all of the entrepreneurs and everybody that's in there. I wanted to know if those can be amended from what the initial, because there's like an initial uptake process where we input our text statements, our bluff statements, and then we're continually upgrading and improving those. And I wanted to know if before you post those to everybody, if we can make improvements to those.
So Tom, that's a great, Kit, sorry. That's a great question. Yes, as we move forward in each year's cohort, we publish the bluffs as they come in, as we're editing, working with the client. As they move forward from year to year, we want their updates. We want it to be updated to where it's current. The whole objective there is that the bluff becomes valuable as a marketing piece to the client, as well as to others that are seeking that particular innovation or that knowledge. So that way it becomes effective. The second part of that is we want the poster board or the public document to be the same way, to where as your TRL changes, as you have successes, as you've won an award, whatever those are, that's part of that information. We just received word recently that Brett Sheringhausen, the DoD Tech Scout, who's worked closely with us, has changed the quad chart requirements, wanting it to look a little different or certain information. I haven't even looked at to see what's on there yet, but same thing with them. As we all are continuing to innovate in a way that becomes more effective for whoever the audience is, we want to do the same thing. So yes, we have not added the poster board as the public document to the bluff yet, but we want to do that. When we do that, we will go back and expressly request or inform our clients that we're doing that. That's why everything we do, we talk about the quad chart information paper and pitch deck being private, one-on-one in the or in a presentation to whoever the audience is, tech scouts, etc. And then the public document or the poster board being public with the bluff. We've just not married the two yet. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely, thoroughly. Thank you.
You bet. Yeah, we're trying to get there. Just one of the things Bijou talked about a while ago that for those of you that are on the outside of the SBDC may not quite understand, but we do have limited resources when we're trying to affect change and impact as best we can. with that limited amount of resource that we have to where we make our dollars work wiser. Having someone like Chris Frederick with KDOC on the call on today is a good example of that. We are hopefully getting better at being able to provide information to KDOC and back and forth to where KDOC being Kansas Department of Commerce, for those that don't know what that means, but to where we are improving our impact, which means each of the regional directors that are out working with clients, as they see that they have an opportunity to work with us, that they refer and vice versa. So we're trying to get better at that with everyone on board. Anyway, so hopefully that helps with that. I see we've got yeah, so I've also been requested my email address. When we do the PowerPoints, we try to make sure we have that information on the PowerPoint. It should be in our website as well. If it's not, I need to resolve that. My email address is Badgley, B-A-D-G-L-E-Y, Badgley at ksbdc.net. And I'll put that in the chat as well. I hope today's talk made some sense to you. We're very excited about the change with our matchmaking. We're excited about the matchmaking conference in general, because we do believe it's going to be a big deal. It is the beginning of an ongoing program. Our Encountering Innovation has improved over time. We have good participation from our tech scouts, which is a big deal. We don't have to prove our value with them now. That has happened. So I don't spend my first year doing that. I can't tell you how much time we spent recruitment for speakers to attract tech scouts as well as tech scouts. We don't do that hardly at all now. And I don't mean that arrogantly. I mean that because we've qualified our value. Just like everyone here, you have to do that with other resource partners, whether it's a banker or a supplier or a vendor or a customer. That all has to happen for all of us. We're doing that, but we're not where we want to be because we're trying to continually improve. Anyway, so I appreciate each state that's represented here today, and I hope as we move forward, we're able to improve. One of the things I'm going to pause myself because Bijou, one of the things I thought about a while ago in your ideation, and I don't know if Lori Piper would want to see that, but I thought of, I realize you're doing in your ideation, part of what you're doing is a broadcast to a group, and then part of what you're doing is individual. I would love to know if in your broadcast portion, if there's a way you could record it or have it in such a way that others could see the broadcast training or advising, not the individual one-on-one. I see, and I go back to my roots with the economic development training with the NDC training, and I loved the fact that they had brief amount of lecture, and then they had a case study, and then we worked together as a group and then individually, and that information really starts to sink in as a group. We all have limited resources. If you could share your broadcast training, I think that'd be a great asset to all of us, just like Barbara Bonner in Oklahoma, Nicole in North Dakota. If we got better at that kind of content providing, then we could do better at sharing our clients and say, hey,
Well,
go
Alan,
watch this. Yeah.
I don't want to speak for Bijou, but I know for our program, even though we're going to be doing it virtually, we will not be broadcasting it and sharing it because we want to create a safe environment for people to explore their ideas and share their ideas. And I don't think that you get that when something is recorded and then posted on a website or shared on Facebook or something like that. So, you know, we're hoping that we're going to have a positive group dynamic you know, create an environment where people feel safe working through their ideas. And so that's why we will not be broadcasting ours. You know, a lot of our trainings, we do record, but this is going to be more reverse classroom, and I think not really appropriate for broadcasting. I mean, there might be some segment, some small portions of it, but definitely not the whole sessions.
So there's, so you're talking about that basically your clients will be in a way that they're sharing and talking and asking, engaging in the training.
Right. Yeah. I don't
Gotcha.
think that that's appropriate for sharing, you know, just on a website or Facebook Live or something like that. But, you know, we're going to have, you know, small components of it that are presentations, instructional, like those it might be, but I think our webinars are more the place to go for that type of broadcast information. But what we're going to be doing is a combination of group exploration, group learning, and then individual advising outside of the sessions.
Gotcha. Well, thanks for sharing that.
Yes.
Helped to understand.
Yeah, same here, Alan, because actually what we find is that when we do it, it's a pretty intimate time, even when it's a group, because typically what happens is once we have a group together, all the members of the group become friends and they build relationships there. So, and to go back to your earlier point, they sometimes even partner together on future engagements. So we kind of want to keep it free. We don't record it for ourselves either, because we want it to be a free and open learning environment where ideas are shared and concepts are because you're essentially talking through your concepts and your applications, and we have to be able to ask pretty detailed questions about, is that where you're going with it? Does it make sense? So there's a lot of business insights that could be gained from an external individual viewing in and a future a competitor. So
that's great to know. Thank you both for sharing.
Sure.
That helps us to understand. I go back to one of the things we talked about before, and I didn't say it today, but I think it's most important, and you both have basically ensured that, and that is that I've told our innovators before, we may not help you, but we will not hurt you. That has got to be our highest priority. We want to help you, but if we help you at the risk of hurting you, then that's a detriment. And so you both pointed that out. That's a good point. I appreciate that. I think I've got all my questions answered. This has been good content, good information for us. We are working to be better at improving our ability to work with each other. And Lori Moncrief being on here is a good example of that. She's working from in a lot of cases, a national level, as she's worked with us specifically in Oklahoma and Colorado, to where she can go back and have an impact. So I think her being able to sit in and in some cases be the fly on the wall, if you will, listening to this stuff, can benefit us all as she goes and tries to help direct some of the energy from a national level. Would that be fair to say, Lori?
Yep. And you didn't just call me a fly, did you?
I think so. I'll say ladybug on the wall.
There you go. I like that much better. Yeah, I just love the collaboration that I see going on. I mean, I got to tell you guys, you don't see this all across the country, but it's the key. Nobody can do this alone. The more we can figure out how to leverage everybody's resources, dollars, expertise, the better it is for everybody. And so that's why I love working with you guys, because you get it.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that, Lori. I agree. Bijou showed up our first year. He was our only, I think I'm saying that right. He was our only out-of-state SBDC person the first year, and brought a good cohort group, some really sharp individuals that made the entire conference that much better, and learning from him. I encourage the SBDC folks here, as you're doing stuff, if you can't, one of the things you can do to help me is even if other even if other clients can't see some of what you're doing, if you invite me or someone from our team to participate or to see what you're doing, and hopefully our SBDC credentials work for that. That's the kind of stuff that will improve all of us as well, to where we all get better. We don't all need to know everything. I'm not about to try to learn some of the stuff that Bill Carey knows or that Bijou knows, because that's a waste of whatever little limited space is left up here to add to it. I've learned that. So I'm not going to do that, just like Rick and his expertise. But if we can get better at knowing what's in the toolbox and what to put in the toolbox and make it easier for our clients and our resource partners to know where those tools are, the better off we'll all be. And like I said, my example of what I'm doing right now is a perfect example where I'm going, I know I have that. And the problem is, for all of us, you go looking for something and at some point you time out. You either quit looking because you can't, you've got to stop, which means something either did not get done or you did it poorly or in an inferior fashion than you would have done, whether that's an application for an SBIR, or that's a document, or it's a public, it becomes part of your web, or an email. For all of us, we all time out. And so you go, well, this have to be good enough. I couldn't find it. So I'm hoping we get better with our tools as well. Any other,
Okay.
we are in overtime. Any other comments or questions before we tell everyone thank you for coming? Hearing
Looks
none,
like
I
that's
think we're
it.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
Bijou,
you.
thank you so much for sharing with us today.
Yes.
I hopefully we will do that with all of our other states as well. We want to get everybody to sharing best practices, part of the comments. We will be getting together and getting our the new improved Encountering Innovation Matchmaking. We'll get details. We've already shared with our host. They're doing some mapping. So as we, in the weeks to come, we will be quickly sharing that information, because one of the things we're doing is we got to get the outreach for Encountering Innovation, as well as the those that want to meet with the primes in the matchmaking. That may be two separate intakes, or it may be one. So we'll look at both ways, what makes best sense. So sharing that with you in the weeks to come as well. Cool. Thank you all.